Okay, so grapes and raisins. This is relatively new. Anybody ever run into this poisoning at a clinic or with your own animal? Tell me about it over here.
We had a puppy that they came in and he said that he'd been like chewing on stuff and it was pretty like run of the mill. And he was vomiting, had diarrhea, bloody stools, like his blood tests were like all over the place.
Okay.
And I think they eventually had to put him down.
Wow. Okay, you might not have heard that, but as a puppy, it came in diarrhea, vomiting,
Diarrhea.
bloody diarrhea, vomiting. What else? Just blood. The blood panel was
Yeah, the blood panel was just all
crazy.
over.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing about puppies. You know, they'll chew anything, they'll eat anything. You just, if you ever have a puppy, be extra diligent on what's on. Remember how we always, if we have a puppy here, I go check the floor around you because I'm so paranoid. They'll eat a thumbtack. I've seen it at meat crossing. They opened up a dead puppy's stomach, and I like, this is fiction almost what was in there. You couldn't like predict what would have been in that stomach. Anyway, so this is really, okay, somebody else had a hand up though too, because the true life stories are fun. Who else are real, not fun? Sorry, there we go.
I was volunteering in a vet clinic this summer.
This summer,
And somebody had a pug that had eaten a box of raisins.
okay.
And they brought it in. It was only within like 45 minutes. So the vet just had it throw up, and then she got like a bunch of raisins. So she didn't think it was all were left in there. So it was
Okay. So do you remember what they gave the dog to vomit? Induced vomiting? Remember that's an
I
emetic?
don't know what that was.
Here we go. Probably hydrogen peroxide. How did they administer it? Was it by syringe in a little tube or?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so they gave it peros, obviously, right? So put hydrogen peroxide. Does anybody know, is it what percent or how they mix that up? It's not straight out of the bottle, is it? Hydrogen peroxide? Is it? It might be, yeah, okay. So straight out of the bottle, induce vomiting, and if that puppy had, the pug in this case, had eaten raisins, they knew it. And it's interesting, it depends what kind of size of box, right? You know, you have those little boxes that are snack, and then you have the bigger box. I'm not sure what it would have been. Could have been the smaller one.
Small box.
That small box, yeah. And if you get vomiting, supposedly things hang around in the stomach up to 2 hours. So a lot of times if you have an animal that ate something and it's up to 2 hours and you induce vomiting, after that a lot of times it's in the intestines and that would be hard to vomit. But yeah, so that sounds like a good treatment there. Anyway, this is relatively new. I think when I was going to school, I don't think we knew anything about this. I'm just going to enlarge this. I only show you these readings to give you a little guide. You have to read these out of class, and you guys know how that works. You basically look at all the words, the terminology. Do you know the mechanism, the biology, and if there's any strange words, you can look those up. And I should, maybe in a little bit, I'll show you how to look up words. And I get this probably once a year. I get an email from a past student that says, I'm selling drugs now, and I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these words. And I remember you in class showing us where there might be sound files for all these words, and I want to show you that because sometimes you get out and maybe you don't know how a certain word is pronounced. And I'll show you how you always can look this up. Anyway, potential threat. It'd be interesting to know, anybody ever heard of this in cats? Cats are so persnickety and fussy they may not even eat grapes and so forth. There's a great word, anuria. If you ever see A or AN as a prefix, that means without. So that word literally means no urine. Okay? Anyway, it goes on, pathology, renal failure. So it looks like probably it's the kidney. The kidney is the target tissue for grapes and raisins. And of course, what would be more toxic, raisins or the same weight of grapes? Raisins, more concentrated. Grapes have a lot of water, right? So 1 gram of grape is not as toxic as 1 gram of raisin, right? You're concentrating that, you're getting rid of the moisture. So renal failure, vomiting are often the first signs, and let's see, this vomiting and diarrhea, just like you read the script over here. A few hours of ingestion. The sooner, of course, the better that you can induce vomiting and get rid of this. Emesis, there's the word, induction and vomiting. And you might sometime want to look up vomiting center, right? Remember in the brainstem, there's this center, and this is a review a little bit. There's a vomiting center, and it's all neural. It's a neural reflex. It gets afferent neural signals, sensory signals, and it sends out efferent neural signals to induce vomiting. And vomiting is a very coordinated reflex. Okay? It would be wired in utero. When the fetus was in the uterus, the vomiting center and all its wires would be put into place. Okay? And it's all neural. There's no hormonal thing going on here. Okay, so then that's a very short little link about vomiting, about grapes. Okay, so before I go on, yeah, this will be a great example. What if I wanted to learn how to pronounce that word, Teratogens? So let me show you how to do that, because that's what we're doing next. Instead of naming these compounds, I just did that. So what I do is always go to my favorite online dictionary, onelook.com. Now, I don't have any money into these things, but and it brings you up to this place, and we're going to do Teratogens, right? Oh, there it is right there. Now I'll scale this back. Sorry. And this Merriam-Webster always seems to have some sound files. Now, I haven't rehearsed this, so maybe the computer isn't set up. It may not make a sound. We'll see what happens here. And hopefully it will. If not, I know it works on my computers at home. So, you think to yourself how it's going to be pronounced. See this little thing here? This is going to make a sound, and let's see what it says. I think we're all set for sound. Oops, get out of the way, cat. Okay. Didn't.
You
might want to unmute it.
What's that?
You have the sound on.
Okay, thank you. See, as a group, we're pretty smart, right?
Teratogen.
Teratogen.
Teratogen. Teratogen.
So, okay, sorry. How come it's not playing again? Anyway. Okay, now I want another word. I'll do one more word. This is interesting. And of course, you're writing these things down, right? Now, I guess I should have said on the teratogens, not only pronunciation, but that means it affects the fetus. I should go back after a minute. It's a drug that interferes with fetal development, a teratogen. Now, I shouldn't say drug, I should say agent. It doesn't always have to be a drug. Okay, so think of how you pronounce this. You spell it multiparous, but that's not how you pronounce this. Multiparous, and I should say, you can see the definition down here, producing many or more than one at a birth, or having experienced one or more previous parturitions. Actually, that's not quite right. The best definition is having multiple pregnancies. That means 2 or more in the past. 1 is not right. But see, that's the value of an instructor, not always the computer. So, let's see how she pronounces this word. You spell multiparous, but that's not how it's pronounced.
Multiparous.
Yes, multiparous.
Multiparous. Multiparous.
And then, of course, maybe some of you are curious if you want to talk about the cow has only had 1 pregnancy in the past. That is, okay, and I just lost my train of thought. Okay, this is good. Yeah, okay, now I got it. Phew, I lost that. Okay, here it is. Oops, sorry. Where am I at up here? Primiparis. Let's see how they say it. Oh, no. Oh, okay. So I've got some kind of little variation here. Oh, correct. It's not gonna. Here it is. No? Yeah, here it is. Okay. Well, it's not working right now, but primiparis means having one pregnancy in the past. So you can't say one offspring. Why can't you say having one offspring in the past? Yeah, because how about a sow? I mean, she's never going to have just one in the past. So one pregnancy in your past. So multiparous is 2 or more pregnancies in your past. Primiparous is 1 pregnancy in your past. And then, of course, there's a word for never having a pregnancy. What's that? Nulliparous. N-U-L-L-I, Paris. So that's, most of the times they work. Maybe for some reason some of this sound isn't working, but I thought the Teratogens was a good example. So you can always pronounce something, yes?
So if you have like a heifer that's aborted, she's still
Oh
pregnant.
yeah, see, look at these questions. So you have a heifer that's aborted. Technically, you would still call her primiparous because, of course, the question is, when did she abort? On day 30 of pregnancy or day 230, right? But once they've gone through a pregnancy, you never, sorry, the uterus will never be like nulliparous. Okay, so now we're going to go through some of the teratogens. There's hundreds of these, and I like this screen, sorry for these advertisements, because they say any agent. Because remember how I corrected myself? I said any drug, no. It's any agent, something that the animal has been exposed for and it disturbs the development of the embryo or fetus. Remember how you have a, what's the fertilized egg called? The zygote, right? You have a zygote, and then sooner or later it develops into an embryo. And when you have cattle and you do embryo transfer, that's a misnomer, right? By the way, you can never transfer an embryo. Okay? That would never work. But that's how they named it. So you got zygote, embryo, fetus. Embryo is when all the organs are forming and all the wiring is done. Fetus is simply more growth until the end of the pregnancy, right? So any agent that can disrupt the embryo or fetus may cause birth defects. Teratogen may halt a pregnancy outright. So all the way from causing abortion, and of course everybody knows the 2 types of abortion, the 2 main categories of abortion. I looked over at Maddie and she's okay, good. See, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, anyway, 2 types of abortion. Spontaneous. You have no idea what happens, but it's spontaneous. And then in the human population, what's that called? A spontaneous abortion is called miscarriage. The other type of abortion is induced. You intend to do it. And of course, everybody in the room knows the most famous drug that induces abortion in any mammal, and it's a world famous progesterone antagonist. What? She said luteolase. Now that's a great example. No. But now let's talk about it. She's saying luteolase, and that's a company name. What's the drug, the true hormone in luteolase? Okay, well the hormone in luteolase is PGF2 alpha. Okay? And yes, in some animals that will induce abortion. But not all animals. Okay? So, and by the way, PGF2 alpha is not a progesterone antagonist. That's a good lesson. It is not a progesterone antagonist. So now I know somebody behind me here talked about, okay, the world famous progesterone antagonist that's used for induction of abortion, RU486. Okay? Yeah, I mean world famous. It's named after a French company, RU and whatever, and it's 486 drug the person was working on. Perhaps. Yeah.
Is dexamethasone, is that also called abortion for
Okay, so now, yeah, see, this is the value of this live interaction. Now we have a question about dexamethasone. Let's see. Let me look that up for you. I want to do one look. I don't know. Oh, I know where it's perfect. Let's do dexamethasone. Oops. And see, I'm a very poor speller, but you know, I'm pretty good sometimes. Okay, so the question is, will dexamethasone induce abortion? Probably not. You don't use it to induce abortion. Okay? Now, dexamethasone, let me go to my favorite one here. We'll see if it can pronounce it. See, the thing is, these dictionaries are pretty good with all these sound files. I mean, it even will pronounce dexamethasone. Let's see if this works.
Dexamethasone. Dexamethasone.
Okay. So there's your point right there. All you have to write down is a synthetic glucocorticoid. I'm trying to make that bigger for you guys. But I guess with all these screens, you only have to do half the room, look half the room. Okay, it's a synthetic glucocorticoid, and I know I was asked over here, because in some of my classes, I talk about how I induce parturition in cattle with dexamethasone. So you can use it to induce parturition in animals. I'm not sure all the animals it works on. I know in cattle it works. Does anybody know why you inject a synthetic glucocorticoid? That's like, synthetic glucocorticoids are like cortisol, right? That kind of hormone from the adrenal cortex. Why would a glucocorticoid induce parturition?
Cortisol is produced by the fetus to start.
She said cortisol is produced by the fetus to initiate parturition. See how I filled in some of those words for you? Yes, in the fetus, the adrenal cortex pumps out cortisol, and that starts the whole thing. So if you ever ask, who initiates parturition, the mom or the fetus? The fetus. The fetus decides when it's time to come out, not mom. And here you guys, the women thought moms were in control. No way. It's the fetus. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, the step back from that is the pituitary gland has to release ACTH to make cortisol come out of the adrenal cortex. Endocrinology there. Yeah, so the fetus decides when parturition should occur by releasing cortisol. That starts this whole thing up. So then you can artificially induce parturition. Fool the system by giving it glucocorticoid. And that has a longer half-life than cortisol. So it's a very common drug. It's more famous for anti-inflammatory responses, right? Okay, super. I'm going to just reset my camera here a second. Someday I'll be able to hire a cameraman or a woman. What? Oh, what does the pituitary gland have to release? ACTH. Okay, that's the anterior pituitary, right? Anterior pituitary, ACTH. Okay, here's a cruel, well, I won't say cruel, but here's the experiment they did years ago to work this out. And I can't remember what animal it was. If it was in cattle, it was some animal they worked this out. This sounds cruel, and nobody probably does it today. But to work this mechanism out, when they were just trying to figure it out, and you know, you can do surgery on the fetus, right? You can go in there and do stuff and then sew it back up. They decapitated fetuses. They separated the head from the rest of the body. And do you see how that would not cause parturition? You disconnect the pituitary from the adrenal cortex so they couldn't talk. And parturition never came. Decapitation of the fetus. I don't remember if it was cattle or swine, whatever. Okay, so definitions, all kinds of teratogens, comes through milk. Some medications can go and affect the neonate. You can read all that stuff yourself. What's this one? Okay, that page is not found. I'm going to change that because I found a new one. I guess I forgot to update it. Purdue has a neat list, and it's probably, I don't know, I didn't count them, 300-400 chemicals long that are known teratogens. And if you ever run a campus, you have to be careful of people working in labs, and if some lab is doing some research where you have a female that might be pregnant, you might not have that person in the lab until they deliver their offspring. Somebody mentioned PGF2 alpha. When I worked with PGF2 alpha, I never let any of my female graduate students or workers handle it because it is luteolytic and it goes through the skin. And it's very easy when you're injecting cattle, you know, to get stuff on your hands because they move or, you know, something drops, whatever. So I'll change that. But I know I found the page the other day. I thought I had changed it. Anyway, it's got a whole big list. Okay, that's what else. Okay, study of abnormalities, teratogenesis. Of course, you're going to read all this. Certain things can cross the placenta better than others. Sometimes it only takes a one episode exposure to affect the fetus. And one of the maybe the best, well, when I say best, I mean biologically speaking. I don't say it's like a good example, like things that should happen. But there's a thing in human population called FAS. All capitals. What's that? Fetal alcohol syndrome. That's where a person, a woman, pregnant woman, will go binge drinking, maybe even just once, and it has effects on her fetus. And I know in another class I've told you, I had a graduate student that was very interested in that topic. Jennifer went on to be a president of some medical education company. We gave alcohol to pregnant sheep. Of course, I'm the animal handler, so I did IV jugular pregnant sheep. Jennifer designed the study with a med school in Iowa. I'll try to maybe find the article the next time we meet. But what we did briefly is we gave alcohol at a certain time of pregnancy. She had calculated out per kilogram body weight for the sheep to go binge drinking. I'm the guy that came in with the alcohol, probably 90%, and gave a certain number of mils IV over time. Then the lambs were born. She did some videotaping on behavior, like normal nursing behavior, all that stuff. And remember, she's doing this with a med school, and I'm the gopher. I'm the doing this, right? So I'm doing the alcohol treatment. I didn't take any myself, by the way. Then we euthanized the lambs and took their brains out. And then we sent their brains to the med school in Iowa so they could look for morphological differences of certain brain sites. So it was all very interesting. And Jennifer You know, she got her biology degree in UC Santa Barbara, and I was so jealous because she showed me pictures. They walked off their building, and there's the ocean. You know. Anyway, so fetal alcohol syndrome. When we start on Wednesday, I'll show you that article. I think we'll end right there. Okay. Humans. We said a lot of chemical names, didn't we, today? Hormones.